I played Little League. Well, more like I sucked at playing Little League, and that's probably why I don't have any photo documentation to support the claim. When I was about 10 years old, Little League was kind of fun, as none of the kids were really able to throw the ball that hard, so I had a good chance at actually hitting it. Also, if they beamed me with the ball, it didn't hurt that much. As time went on, everyone got progressively better at baseball, more into baseball, more competitive, and taller. Except me. Around age 15, I was about 6 inches shorter than everyone else, and the only one on the team that didn't have fancy spiky baseball shoes. I just had a beat-up old pair of Airwalks. I'm pretty sure I was also the only one on the team that struck out 3 times during the same inning. That was probably the last year I was exposed to the torture of playing baseball. The one part of the game I did kind of enjoy was when I got to just sit on the bench and eat sunflower seeds. If that was a position, I probably would still be playing today. One of the guys on the team, named Jeff, was also super into RPGs, and in between me striking out and him getting on base, we talked about our faves. I introduced him to Final Fantasy III, or Final Fantasy VI if you want to get technical, and he introduced me to a game called Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger was released by Squaresoft March 11th, 1995 on the Super Famicom in Japan, and later the same year for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Squaresoft is a juggernaut in the RPG genre, and gave us the Final Fantasy series, as well as Secret of Mana, Breath of Fire, Mario RPG, and other rad games from the 16-bit RPG era. Square eventually merged with Enix, and is still pumping out rad-looking games. Being a retro gamer, I have yet to try any of their recent releases, and I'm actually kinda scared to. Like someone taking a bong rip of a modern-day indica after only smoking bunk homegrown stuff 30 years ago. Anyways, the development team of Chrono Trigger was pretty much the traveling Wilburys of the RPG scene. A supergroup that had already given us 10 years of nerderific masterpieces, wasting hour after hour of my childhood and teen years that could have been spent on homework or getting better at baseball. The lineup consisted of Hironobu Sakaguchi, who created the Final Fantasy series, Yuji Horii, who brought us Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior for us North American audiences, Akiru Tamayama, who was the author of Dragon Ball, definitely the best known anime for people like myself that don't really know anime. Masato Kato wrote most of the story and was previously known for the Ninja Gaiden series, although I don't think there was a lot of storyline for Ninja Gaiden now that I think about it. Yasunori Mitsuda wrote most of the score for the game and is maybe the coolest story out of everyone. Previous to Chrono Trigger, Mitsuda was a sound designer for Final Fantasy V, Seventh Saga, Secret of Mana, and other games, creating sound effects and other non-musical noises. However, sound effects weren't Mitsuda's passion, and he told Sakaguchi if he doesn't get to compose music for the next game, he's going to quit. Sakaguchi agreed to let him write the score for Chrono Trigger, but it wasn't just another grind levels and get items RPG. Chrono Trigger was going to be a new standard in the RPG genre. Basically, you were on the rink with Gretzky, Hull, Chelios, and Coffee, with Potvin in net, so you better keep that stick on the ice and be ready for a pass at any moment. Mitsuda poured everything he had into the score of the game, and what he came up with was amazing. All the songs capture the exact feeling of what I imagine the characters in the game might have felt during each moment. It also helped transport me into the world of Chrono Trigger, and actually made it feel like I was wandering around all the crazy map screens and living the storyline. But genius often comes at a price, and Mitsuda was plagued by working crazy hours and often was found sleeping at his desk after working all night. At one point, his hard drive failed, losing 40 songs. Constant stomach pains had sent him to the hospital multiple times, and in the end, Nobuo Uematsu, who composed the music for Final Fantasy, pinch hit for the last few tracks to meet the deadline. Of the 64-something tracks created for the game, Mitsuda had written 54 of them, with Uematsu finishing off the last 10. But enough name-dropping already. Let's play the game! Chrono Trigger is basically the story of 7 unlikely heroes joining forces to defeat Lavos, a giant alien from outer space who burrowed into the planet's core 65 million years ago to absorb the planet's energy. Lavos finally emerges to destroy the world in the year 1999, and the heroes of our story must travel between 7 different time periods to learn of the awful fate of the world and how to save it. Along the way, more allies are rallied to join the cause, and special items and relics are discovered until your team grows strong enough to defeat Lavos and save the future. The time periods in the game are 65 million BC, a prehistoric time period, 12,000 BC, a time of great magic and technology, 600 AD, the Middle Ages, 1000 AD, modern day, or the time period the game starts at, 1999 AD, when Lavos fucks shit up, and 2300 AD, a dystopian future where the planet is laid to waste and humanity is huddled in domes, barely surviving. But what good is a fabulous background of a story without the heroes? Chrono is the main character in the game, and who the story follows, well, most of it. Luca is a friend to Chrono and a great inventor. Marl is secretly the princess of the Gardena kingdom, who much prefers to be off on an adventure than sitting on the throne. Robo is found in 2300 AD and is a helpful robot who is fond of humans. Frog, once a human, is an expert swordsman from the Middle Ages and an all-around nice kind of guy. Frog. Ayla, from prehistoric times, was the leader of her tribe. She is super tough and lets you know about it often. Magus is a great wizard, originally from 12,000 BC, and is the only character who is optional depending on how you play the game. The battle system in Chrono Trigger is simple, but a bit different than other RPGs. The enemies can wander around the screen, which sometimes groups them together, making them vulnerable to certain AoEs, and sometimes not. It's maybe a halfway point between Final Fantasy and Zelda. Each character has a unique tech ability and or magic, as well as a basic attack, and you can use items. The part that really breaks Chrono Trigger away from other RPGs is the dual and triple tech attacks. Characters can team up, combining tech skills to pull off one massive attack that usually does more damage than each single attack would on their own. I think it also encourages players to try out all the characters and check out the animations and effects of all the dual and triple attacks. Each character has 8 single tech or magic abilities, with a few tech abilities being repeated by different characters, and then there are something like 45 different dual tech abilities. Magus, the bonus character, has no dual tech abilities, as he doesn't seem to play well with others, I guess. However, Magus does have a triple tech ability, which is one of the strongest in the game, making a total of 10 triple tech abilities and over 100 different ways to wreck nerds. Chrono Trigger gives you the choice of active battle time, where the enemies continue to attack when you're selecting your next course of action, or wait, which kind of pauses the game when you scroll through the menus. The only advantage I've ever found to the active mode is other characters in the party continue to gain turn meter when you are scrolling through the menus. So if you are waiting for a character to pop to pull off a dual tech or triple tech ability, you can park the cursor next to that ability until all characters are ready to attack. In the wait mode battle version, you gotta wait outside any of these sub-menus, otherwise none of the characters will continue to gain turn meter. Super duper minor shit, and I've probably spent more time on it than I should have. I don't feel active or wait mode really makes the game that much more fun or anything either way. Either mode can still lead to a situation where you get called away for something only to return to a game over screen as you didn't pause the game properly. The opening screen begins in 1000 AD or modern day with a green landscape and 16-bit ocean sounds, birds, and balloons flying into the air. After some mum chatter, you can hit the map screen. One thing I never really noticed until making this video is Chrono doesn't have any dialogue in the game. Characters talk to him, and I suppose the answers are kind of implied sometimes and stuff, but I believe this was an attempt at truly making Chrono your window into the game. Unlike most other RPGs by Square, the map screen doesn't have random battles. I kind of prefer it actually. There is nothing more annoying than if you are stuck at a part wandering around trying to figure out what to do and have to deal with a random battle every 10 seconds. The battles you do encounter are sometimes avoidable if you can sneak by an enemy, which is also pretty rad, especially as you will be backtracking multiple times past the same enemies as you unweave the complex story Chrono Trigger puts before you. I've always been a grinder in RPGs and usually try to fight all the possible battles for experience and gold's sake. But even I just want to get on with it at times.
Yes, get on with it!
Throughout the game, there are tons of buildings, homes, and other places to explore and people to talk to if you are one of those players. If you are more of a just get on with it kind of player,
Get on with it!
And want to get started on some serious stuff, most of the objectives in the game are fairly intuitive, and you don't necessarily have to talk to every single character to advance the story. Chrono Trigger is jam-packed with minigames, side quests, and other fun stuff that isn't the main objective, but can lead to special items or just fun times. It's also semi-non-linear, and some quests can be done in different orders. There are something like 13 different ways to beat the game. You can jump straight to taking on Lavos pretty early on if you think you got what it takes, or you can go all completist on the game and finish every single little crumb of the story, or somewhere in the middle. Once you beat the game, you can play again with the Game Plus mode. This allows you to start with all your items, character levels, and tech abilities. So any grinding you had to do to finish the game the first time is carried over. Second, third, or whatever playthrough you are on, you can focus on unlocking the multiple endings or exploring different parts of the game you might have missed the first time through. Even the dialogue in the game is different depending on who is in your party. If Chrono and Marl are who you fancy, it might feel more like a love story. If Robo and Luca are who you play, it's a bit more life lesson-ish, maybe kind of like Full House. Apparently, the staff to develop the game was over 50 plus people, which is twice the usual development staff on a Square game, and it really shows. A lot of time was spent on detail, and you don't get the sense that they rushed anything. The game flows super well. The wander around and wonder what to do factor isn't super annoying, like in Simon's Quest for the NES, for example, and often rewarding when you finally figure it out. The parts of the map that are accessible are slowly increased, and later in the game you get a flying time machine called the Apache to reach islands and other parts of the game that weren't accessible before. Speedrunning the game isn't super popular or competitive, but the current record for any percent is 2 hours, 25 minutes, 38 seconds held by Avonis for over a year at the time I made this video. Avonis also holds the 100% all quests category at 4 hours, 32 minutes, 37 seconds. The New Game Plus category is held by 840 Ritz at 6 minutes, 19 seconds. Right at the start of the game, there is a scene where Luca is demonstrating a teleportation system. If you've already beaten the game, the other pod will have a tiny sparkling dot on it. If you try to pick up the dot, you are transported straight to the Lavos battle, with only Chrono and Marl in your team, or perhaps even only Chrono. 840 Ritz run wasn't perfect, and he even admits at one point he screwed up. Perhaps if you want an entry point into the speedrunning community, this is a game that still has some room for improvement. Chrono Trigger is a classic RPG. I still don't think I've gotten all the endings or seen the story play out with every possible combo of characters. Not that you gotta go mega nerd on this one to enjoy it. There was never a sequel to Chrono Trigger. Chrono Cross, like the sequels in Final Fantasy, is similar in some aspects, but doesn't have any of the same characters or story or any time traveling that Chrono Trigger had, making it so unique. If you are a big nerd about the science, and I use that word very loosely in this situation, of time travel, there is a question of why, when you travel to a time period, time has passed since you last went there. It's time travel. Wouldn't it bring you to the exact same point in time when you traveled back the first time? And wouldn't it be as if you had never been there? Definitely a fact only us who sit too close to the TV would care about. Or maybe the gates in the game send you back to not an exact place in time and space, like the DeLorean in Back to the Future, but more of a send you back, say, 400 years exactly from the moment you walk into the gate. So you can never return to the same moments, helping alleviate any time paradox stuff. Well, sort of. Anyways, nerd biz aside, Chrono Trigger is a masterpiece. If you're stoked on retro RPGs and haven't played it, add it to the list. There are some rumors of a Chrono Trigger remake floating around the internet, like they did with Final Fantasy VII, and there is a homemade fan hack called Chrono Resurrection that's a 3D version of parts of the game. For now, cozy up to the SNES, crack a fresh beer, have a puff, and get swept off into the past to save the future.